Welcome back, everyone. Now we start our last chapter, and this is intellectual property rights. Now, in terms of intellectual property rights from the perspective of your examination, I would say that this is a chapter more important for your mains than your prelims examination. And although it's not that questions can't be asked and questions haven't been asked in prelims, questions have been asked in prelims as well. But overall, the structure of the subject is such that it's more important for your mains. Now, overall, when it comes to this intellectual property rights, first try to understand what do we even mean by an intellectual property. What is intellectual? Intellectual, you can say that anything that is creation of the brain, you can say that it is okay, it is intellectual. So anything that belongs to the brain or that has been created by the brain can be called as an intellectual property. So that's why it refers to creation of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, design, symbols, names, images used in commerce. Now understand again, so we'll try to understand each and everything with regards to how do we even define what is intellectual property rights. So intellectual property refers to the creation of the mind, such as inventions, literary and artistic works, designs, symbols, names, images used in commerce. So intellectual property, that's why creation of the mind. Intellectual is what? Something related to the brain is called as intellectual, right? So intellect comes from the term intellect, then intelligence also comes from the same word. So intellectual is brain related, and any creation of the mind can be called as intellectual property. And there are many examples. Any new invention, if you make something new, you, let's say you created the new mobile phone, then it belongs to you. That's intellectual property. Vaccines are intellectual property. Any artwork, intellectual property. Any painting is an intellectual property. Even, let's say, a certain way of advertising can be intellectual property. So there are a lot of different ways in which we can think of intellectual property. Now the question is, why do we need to protect intellectual property? What do we get out of protecting intellectual property? So this, you can say, in itself can become a question. Why is there a need to protect intellectual property? Or in other words, why do we need intellectual property rights? Now there are two things. One, when you start thinking of, okay, why to protect? So one thing can be about the creator, that you want to safeguard the rights of a creator. The creator has made a lot of effort, given it a lot of time, given it a lot of money, invested a lot of money, and that's why creator, once they have succeeded in something, they should get the rights to it. That's the one aspect of it, right? But at the same time, it just goes beyond that. It's not only about the rights and safeguarding that creator, but there are a lot of co-benefits out of this protection. So first, the capacity to create and invent. It helps in creating a better capacity to create and invent, that you are safeguarding them, you are safeguarding their rights, so their capacity also increases. They are getting some monetary value out of it, so they can invest more in the future and they can do more in the future. So for them, it plays a very big role. Similarly, this protection encourages further innovations, right? It can lead to further innovations. So when we say further innovations, we might see that, okay, let's say I launched a product in the market. I get a lot of feedbacks, some very good feedbacks, some poor feedbacks, and some people who have suggested some improvements, that what if it was like this, what if it was like that, could you have done this or that. So what happens is that on the basis of all these feedbacks that have collected from the consumers, I can start acting on it, and then I can create better, I can create more. So that's why it encourages further innovation, and more research and development would happen in this field. But if not anything, at least it is about the acknowledgement of the work, that even if, let's say, there is no financial benefit for me, there's nothing that I'm getting out of it, if not anything, at least the acknowledgement still comes to me, that let's say if I am the creator or I am the writer or I am somebody who has done something, at least people are saying that, okay, fine, this belongs to this person. So even acknowledgement goes a long way, even if there is no financial benefit out of it. So from creators perspective, we understand that there are all a lot of things, but it's not only the creator that's get something out of this protection, but it's also the consumer who benefits, that it can lead to better economic growth. You Many a times what you see is that An entire economy can start building across only on the basis of one product. A very simple example is your mobile phone. Mobile phone today is running the economy, it's running the world, right? So whether at your personal level or professional level, the entire economy has been made on mobile phone. So when it started, it was what, just a device that can help you talk when you are not home. But then internet comes in and cameras come in and all the mobile phone apps and the entire governance today, it's happening on the mobile phone. So it's not only that the mobile phone companies benefited from it, or the mobile phone network providers benefited from it. There are so many things that have just built on mobile phone. If not anything, at least there are a lot of employment opportunities. Just go around your place and see how many mobile phone repair shops are there uh, at any location. So that tells you how this innovation has really helped in the growth of the entire economy. Similarly, what we see is that you start getting better and more efficient products, more reliable products as well. That you will see that only the products which are being liked will remain in the market. The ones which are not being liked will just vanish from the market. And there are so many examples where we've seen it. Nokia mobile phones, uh, probably the most selling mobile phone for a decade. Today, it's nowhere. Today, it doesn't exist. It does still launch its mobile phone, but nobody buys it. So, what happened to the biggest mobile phone manufacturer? It lost the battle in innovation. Innovation wise, a lot of other companies did a lot where the innovations that Nokia worked on, it did not play in the market well. So they did not, they lost their market. They hardly are any contributor to the market. Similarly, Indian mobile phone companies like Micromax or Lava, etc., they started growing in the market in India. And as soon as the Chinese companies came in, they started giving you better performing mobile phones at either the same rate or a cheaper rate. And that is something that led to sidelining of all the Indian mobile phone brands. Lava is still trying to enter the market, still trying to exist in the market. Micromax is nowhere to be seen. Blackberry once used to be a status symbol that somebody has a Blackberry. Today there is no Blackberry, nobody buys a Blackberry. And they have stopped making it, obviously, but it lost its market. It lost its market to Android phones and iPhone. So that's why we see that if the company is not growing with time, they'll vanish. If they are not innovating with time, they'll vanish. They might have the first user advantage, but at the same time, if they are not innovating, if they are not taking feedback seriously and they are not improving according to those feedbacks, they're not going to do anything, because the consumer rules this market. Consumer gets what the consumer wants. Same goes for even films or even books. If you go to a bookshop today, you'll find that there are so many books which are on personal finance. So why so many personal finance books? Because the young India is reading the personal finance books. People are looking for opportunities to invest, so they are looking for these kind of books, and that's why these books have a market today. 10 years ago, it used to be a lot of self-help books, a lot of motivational books used to rule the market. Indian fiction, after Chetan Bhagat, a lot of Indian writers started flooding the market. So whatever the consumer likes is what the consumer gets. The consumer is looking for better films, consumer will get a better film. Consumer is looking for a massive film, the consumer will get the massive film. So it depends on what the consumer needs, and whatever consumer demands, the market fulfills it. So that's why it's not only the creator who benefits from a regime like this, but also the consumer who also benefits. So overall, when we look at intellectual property rights, there are different types of intellectual property rights. The major ones are patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, industrial design rights, and geographical indication. So we'll discuss about all of them one by one. We'll try to understand what exactly do we mean by all these different types of intellectual property rights. First, to start with, we have patents. Now, in case of a patent, what we are saying is that this is a right, a set of rights granted by a sovereign state exclusively to an inventor for a limited period of time in exchange for detailed public disclosure of an invention. Now, patent will be given to a new invention, idea, or process. Now, understand. patent, where patent comes. Suppose that this pen, I am the one who invented the pen. So as I invent the pen, I can go to the government of India and say that, look, I have invented this pen. I want a patent for this pen, for this pen. So then the government takes in, and government will ask for a detailed public disclosure, meaning that I have to give each and every information about this pen. I have to tell about how I made it, what was the research behind it, what is the process that I used, what are the materials that I've used. I'll have to give each and every minute test of the detail regarding this pen. And then the government will verify that is it new, is it innovative, or is there something that already exists. So if they find that this is new and there is nothing which is similar to this in the market, then they would give me the patent. So this is how I get the patent. That there is a new invention that I did. I went to the government, they verified, I give entire detail about it. They verified and they said that fine, this is new, so you get the patent. Now this patent given to me by Government of India will be valid only in India. So if you get patent in a country or a union, it will only be applicable in that country or union. So for example, if I want patent in Pakistan, Indian patent won't apply there. I'll have to go to government of Pakistan, whatever it is, whether it is the democratic government or the army or whoever it is. I'll not go into those political details, but whoever it is, I'll have to go to that government and ask for a patent. And then if they give me the patent will be valid in Pakistan. Then similarly, let's say I need Australia, I'll have to go to Australia. So we'll have to do that. All right, this is how you get the patent, that you have to go to the government of the country or the union and you have to get the patent there, and it will be only applicable there. So that's why we say that these patents are said to be territorial rights. Patents, that's why they are called as territorial rights, because they will be applicable only the countries where you have been given the patent. And then the patent is also granted for a limited period of time, generally for 20 years of time. It will be granted to you, and then after that, if you want, you can get the patent renewed. So there are rules for renewing of the patent as well. So you can get the patent renewed. So either it's a new product, that okay, I invented this pen, so I get the patent for this pen. It can also be given to a new process, that I invented the pen, somebody else also invents the same pen, but the process that they are using is completely different from the process that I was using. So then they also get a patent. I get a product patent, they get a process patent. So that's why it can be a new product or a new process. So anything that is new and innovative, anything that is a new idea that can be counted as a new idea, you can get a patent for it. And then after that, once you get the patent, you have to pay a definite fee, a very small fee periodically, to keep your patent and show, basically to show intent to keep that patent. And then the patent owner will have exclusive rights regarding what they want to do with the patent, how they want to use the patent and all that. So this is what we see with regards to patent. Then there is something called as copyright. So copyright will be given by the law to the creators of literary, dramatic, musical, and artistic works, and producers of cinematograph, films, and sound recordings. So any new painting, artwork, sculpture, music, film, dance form, all these things can be given a copyright. Now, in case of a copyright, what happens is then again the exclusive, even a book, for example, can be given a copyright. Now, when when it comes to the copyright will safeguard your right of reproduction of this thing, or however you want to sell it in the market, or let's say keep it with you, whatever you want, it's your choice. So there are various things for which copyrights can be given. So literary works such as novels, poems, plays, etc., computer programs and databases, films, music composition and choreography, artistic works such as paintings, drawings, sculptures, etc., in architecture, even in advertisements, maps, and technical drawings, you can get copyrights for all these. Now, one thing about copyrights is that copyright protection extends only to the expressions. It only extends to the expressions, and it does, and not to the ideas, procedures, or methods of operations. Meaning, in case of getting a patent, I can go with a prototype of this pen and say that this is what the pen is going to be. This is the idea. This is what the pen is supposed to be. I've not yet created that pen. I've not started manufacturing that pen, but this is what the idea is, and I can get a patent for that. But the same does not apply to copyrights. You cannot say that I have an idea for writing a book, give me the copyright, or I have an idea for making a film, give me the copyright, or I'm going to make music, I'm going to make a song, give me the copyright. No, it doesn't work like that unless you have done it. So that's why patents are given to ideas, copyrights are given to expression of ideas. Unless you have expressed that idea, you cannot ask for patent. All right, you cannot sorry, you cannot ask for copyright. And then something which is method of operation, something which is natural, you cannot get it copyrighted. 2 plus 2 equal to 4, it is not copyrighted in anybody's name. So tomorrow you find out, oh, nobody has 2 plus 2 equal to 4, let me get the copyright for this. And in the future, if anyone is going to use 2 plus 2 equal to 4, they first have to take permission from me, and then only they can write 2 plus 2 equal to 4. Otherwise, I'll go in the courts for them with a copyrights case. You can't do that. Anything which is a natural law, anything uh, which is a mathematical operation, a formula, or a physical physics concept, or physics laws, all these things cannot be copyrighted. All right. So that's why we see that in all these cases, copyrights are given in this particular scenario. Now, overall, we say that there are two types of copyrights, two types of rights that are covered under copyrights. One, the economic rights, and the second one called as the moral rights. So, economic rights is where which allows the right owners to derive financial reward. Right, so when you are getting paid for it, or maybe you are getting some monetary benefit out of it, then it is called as economic right. And then the second part is about the acknowledgement of the work. So acknowledgement of the work is called as the moral right. That even if, let's say, a book that was written 100 years back, so today the author or the family of the author is not getting paid anything, but the acknowledgement of the work still goes to that author. The acknowledgement is not taken away. So that's why economic rights and moral rights both become a part of copyrights. Then there are trademarks. Now, trademark basically is a sign capable of distinguishing the goods and services of one enterprise from those of other enterprises. Like, let's say, a logo like this, the Byju's logo, for example. It is an indicator that this PPT belongs to Byju's, that it's an exclusive right of Byju's. So that's why these are trademarks. So trademark is a sign, design, symbol, the way of writing the name, whatever it is, that is able to distinguish the products and services of one enterprise or one company from others. So, for example, when you see a quarter eaten apple, you recognize that product. You recognize that product, that okay, it belongs to a certain company called as Apple. So that's why, and it has a huge role to play, because they start uh, getting their value, they start creating their value, and that value that they create, this value is what matters later, because of the faith that has been created in the minds of the consumers. So that is how we see that the trademarks work. So, and it can be anything. If you see this, it can be anything. It can be even the shape, for example, the shape of the bottle, the name, how they are writing the name, the font that they are using to write the name, the symbol, the slogan, the color, the logo type, each and because it's a metallic logo or whatever kind of logo it is. So each and everything that they use to distinguish themselves in the market compared to others, all of it will be counted as trademarks. So even the shape of the Coca-Cola bottle is a trademark, and nobody else is allowed to copy it. So that's why trademarks play a very, very important role in making uh, or creating an exclusivity of a certain product in the market, and how exactly they are going to play a big role in the marketing of that product, or even the existence of that very product. Then there are industrial design rights. Now, industrial design rights are rights which protect the visual design. All right, protects the visual design of an object and other aesthetic parameters which are not purely utilitarian in nature. not purely utilitarian in nature, meaning that that design may not have to do anything with its function. Let's say any new mobile phone coming in the market, any new car coming in the market, the very first thing that they would release about this product will be how it looks, the first look of the product. They're not telling you what the features are, whether this is a good phone or a bad phone, or what kind of features do they have. Nothing. First look. So the very first thing, correct? So aesthetic values, the aesthetic parameters also matter a lot. That if it's not a good looking phone, it's not a good looking car, it could be the best car that ever has been created in the world, doesn't look good, probably people will not buy it just because it doesn't look good. So that's why many a times when we look at this becomes a very crucial aspect of any commerce. How exactly does your product look, although it may not have anything to do with its utility. If I give you another example, the Batman mask. The Batman mask has only one function, to conceal the identity of Batman. That nobody should know that Bruce Wayne is Batman. But if you look at all the comics and TV shows and the films over the years, every time there is a new design of the mask. There's slight change every time in the mask design. It's not doing something different, but utility is the same, aesthetics are different. So that's why these are all industrial design rights. So industrial design rights can be a 2 or 3 dimensional pattern that can be used to prepare any product, industrial commodity or handicraft. So this is how we understand industrial design, right, where we are talking about the aesthetic parameters and not the utility. Then there are trade secrets. Now, trade secrets basically are intellectual property rights which are given for some kind of confidential information, information that should not go out. So, every company will, I mean, especially a product based company, will ask its employees to sign a contract or sign a non disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreements, so that and once you're bound by that agreement, you cannot say anything about that product or the development of that product, because otherwise it's an open secret that somebody can just simply use that and your product will be gone because it's very easy to replicate. So that will be called as a trade secret, something that is commercially valuable, known to only a limited group of persons, and subjected to reasonable steps to be taken by the rightful holder if that information leaks. Examples: Coca-Cola, Maggi masala, and all these. Now, Maggi masala is not something that you can't make. If you know the right ingredients, if you know the right proportions, you can make it. There's nothing there's nothing different that that masala is using. Just that there's a typical way in which they are making it, which is liked by the consumer. And if tomorrow somebody else is able to replicate the same, and let's say I have been able to replicate the same, and I'm selling my noodles with this masala at a much cheaper cost, maybe half the cost of what Maggie costs. So then in that case, what happens? Maggie just simply loses its market. The consumer doesn't care, because if my quality is good and my costs are low, consumer will start coming towards me. So, and this is not somebody can stop me from doing. You cannot ask me to you cannot say that, okay, I make my recipe in this manner, you are not allowed to make recipe in that manner. I'm allowed, I can do whatever I want. So that's why you have to protect your secret, and that is what counts as trade secret, where what exactly have you done. So for example, Coca-Cola, or even Thumbs Up, Pepsi, etc., for that matter. So the exact formulation is hidden. They wouldn't tell anyone about what exactly their formulation is, because again, if somebody knows how to make the exact same taste, they can do that at a local level, and then they can eat up the market of Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola will never want that to happen. So that's why they will keep it a secret. So that's why these are called as trade secrets. And then lastly, there is something called as geographical indication. Geographical indication is a sign which is used on products that have a specific geographical origin and possess qualities or reputation that are due to that origin. Now, geographical indication wise, you'll see that there are a lot of geographical indications that have been given. In India, there are more than 500 GI tags that have been given in India. So five more than 500 GI tags. So that's why it's not only about exclusivity of one thing or the other, but every state, uh, they try to represent whatever is unique in about their uh, about their state, whether it is, let's say, a food product, an agricultural product, or maybe just handloom, maybe a way of making carpet. It could be anything. So anything that is having its value because of its origin will be called as geographical indication. For example, Nagpuri oranges. So Nagpuri oranges are famous because they have their quality associated with where they are from. So Nagpuri oranges become very crucial. Basmati rice is a geographical indication. So similarly, there are a lot of geographical indication which we have. Now, so and that's why it's very well fought. If you know about this example, the example of Rasgulla, that whether Rasgulla or Roshogulla or Rasgolla, whether it belongs to Odisha, whether it belongs to West Bengal, so that's again a controversy. And in a class where I might have students both from West Bengal and Odisha, I don't want to go into this controversy. So overall, understand how exactly this has been controversial. That in case of Roshogulla or Rasgola, in both the cases, we see that it was claimed by both the states. Now, if you look into the history, you'll see that history of the two forms of rasgulla that you have right here on your screen is different. So for example, the first one, I mean, this is something that if I have any one of you from Odisha, you would understand. This is the pahala rasgulla. So when it comes to the pahala rasgulla, this is brownish in texture, has a different taste than the whitish one, and in its origin it goes back to almost 12th 13th century, where we also see that it is also offered in the Jagannath Puri temple. So it has its origin there, and it basically has a long history there. Whereas the other one that belongs to West Bengal, the white one that belongs to West Bengal, or the Chhena Rosgulla, this basically is the one that more or less developed in the 18th 19th century, and has been very different. I mean, in taste it is different, in its in its texture it is different. So a lot of controversy happened when West Bengal got a GI tag for rasgulla, but uh, Odisha, I mean, people obviously in Odisha did not like it, because if you go back in history, you'd find probably that in Odisha it goes way back compared to West Bengal. I'm not trying to hurt any sentiments here, but we see that. So in this regard, we see that the government also played safe, and another GI tag was given to the other rasgulla, and that's why both the states have this GI tag. I am not going to be here on this slide for long, otherwise I feel like eating. So that is why we see that there are a lot of controversies. In case of basmati rice, there has been a lot of controversy, that Pakistan and Nepal, both the countries have been trying to contest whether it belongs to India or Pakistan or Nepal and all that, but it belongs to this region. Forget about India and Pakistan fighting on it. Europeans already have some patent on basmati rice already. So that's why we see that there are all these things that we have. So any question with regards to all these different types of IPRs that we discussed? I'm from Manipur, so never tried Orissa Rasgulla. Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, yeah, I know you do not get it as easily as the white Rasgulla, the Chhena Rasgulla, but Pahala Rasgulla is also exceptional. Why would a specific person want to have patent? What will the patent do for him? See, the as you have the patent, then you have exclusive rights of the over the product. For example, let's say this pen, I have invented this pen, I know the utility of this pen, so then I'll register a company in my name and I'll start selling this pen, and then I can get a lot of profit out of it. Or let's say I don't want to do anything, I'll just go and put it in a locker and lock it away from the world and never reveal it. So I can do whatever I want. If I want financial benefits out of it, I can do that. If I don't want anything, I wouldn't do anything. I want to sell it to somebody, I can do that. So it's all on me, whatever I want. If the ingredients are kept secret, isn't it dangerous? What if they are using chemicals that are not supposed to be used, knowing that uh, it would affect our health? So keeping secret means that it's not that they can keep it secret from anyone who is inspecting. From the government they cannot keep it a secret. So but they are keeping it as a secret from the world, from their competitors. They are keeping it as a secret because they know that if the competitor knows, they'll be able to replicate it and they can kill their product. So that is what secrecy means. You cannot keep it a secret from the government. You're not allowed to do that. Pakistan and Nepal trying to steal the GI tag of basmati. Yeah, exactly what I was talking about. Teach us the criteria of taking all these indications. So, I mean, geographical indication wise, first of all, it matters where it belongs, whether it is very common or it has an origin. Do we have a history of it or not? So, and it's also about, more than anything else, it's also about commerce. That if, let's say, as government of India, if I want to promote a certain product, let's say there is a certain product in Maharashtra and I want to promote that product, so then what I do is that I provide a GI tag to it, so that now it starts to hold a value and then it can be sold better in the market. Conflict between Odisha and West Bengal, yeah, that's true. I support Odisha. I'll not comment on it. I like both. Mm, Basmati rice can have a GI tag in India as well as UK. See, GI tag is more of a national thing, that we are giving GI tags to various products that belong to various different parts of the country. So, when it comes internationally, it's more of a patent war between the two countries. Once upon a time, Pakistan said Neem's intellectual property. Pakistan can say whatever they want. It doesn't matter. They have to win the rights internationally. There, they wouldn't. Patent related to medicine also has territorial rights. Uh, yes. So, for example, let's say an Indian company makes a medicine, and then, because what happens is, I mean, in medicine, in pharmaceuticals especially, you'll find that the patent war becomes ugly. The kind of the ways in which patents are being handled, it becomes ugly, and we'll discuss about some of the issues also. But yes, it's possible. Who deserves the tag of basmati? Obvious answer, India. But yeah, the problem is that these are shared areas. That basmati is grown in actually all these countries, so it's not that somebody is stolen from some other country, because we have a shared history, we have a shared past. So that's why we see that all these regions have been fighting. GI tag given by whom? It will be given by the government of India. TRIPS agreement of WTO is also related to this. Yes, it is. How US gets patent in name. We'll discuss about that. That's the problem. That's the controversy. All right. So coming to our next topic, and this is about national policy on IPR. Now, National IPR policy of 2016 became a very, very important landmark in the entire IPR regime in India. Now, it's not that before this we did not have acts. There is the Patent Act, Copyrights Act, Cinematography Act, Farmers' Rights Act. There are many, many acts like these. But the problem with regards to intellectual property in India has been that uh, we as a nation haven't given it a lot of weightage. It has a potential to create a market. It has a potential to create a lot of employment opportunities. It has a potential to create a lot of innovations and a lot of new startups, etc. But historically we have not done a lot in terms of IPRs, although all these laws exist, all these acts exist, all different types of, I mean, we have seen the schemes, policies, etc. have existed. But there was a need for an integrated policy, because every other scheme or every other act that we have until now, all these are separate, they are working in their own silos. But now what we wanted is that we need to move beyond that individuality, and we have to take everything as a part of a national policy on IPR. And this is where we see that the national policy on IPR 2016 was conceived. Now, when we look at these uh, when we look at this policy, what we understand is that overall the basic objective has been to ensure that people understand the value of IPR. People understand the value of IPR, people start creating more IPRs, people start generating money out of these IPRs. We should be able to stand not only in national but also in international markets and get benefits of these IPR regimes to the Indian people internationally as well. And especially for also the less empowered groups of painters or artists or farmers, they should also understand the kind of value that they are generating. So these objectives, plus the problems that we have been facing internationally, the controversies that have happened internationally, to counter them, we needed this IPR policy. So that is where we see that the conception of IPR policy happens. So when you look at the major highlights of the policy, it has a tagline of Creative India, Innovative India. Creative India, Innovative India is the target tagline, sorry. And it talks about updation of various intellectual property laws, including the Indian Cinematography Act, protection of plant varieties and Farmers' Rights Act, etc. So that's why, as I told you, that all these acts, all these laws now will be covered as a part of this policy. And that's why regular updations have to happen, amendments have to happen, so that you are going forward, moving forward with whatever changes are happening in the world. So that's why it becomes very, very crucial. Then the national policy also solicits financial aid to develop IP assets. So whether through banks or venture capitalists or angel funds or even crowdfunding, so that every the financial aspects of creating IPR can be supported. So let's say it's a company, it's a new company which is working on a very advanced tech. They would need that money. They would need that financial aid so that they can create it, so that they can uh, become a player in this market. So from this perspective, it becomes very, very crucial that the financial support is provided. Then especially for the less empowered group, for the less empowered group of IP owners, it especially becomes important, whether through rural banks or cooperative banks, so that they can be offered IP friendly loans. Now especially for the less empowered groups, we see that the problems are bigger. Suppose if you talk about something like a Madhubani painting. Now Madhubani painting comes from a region in Bihar, and a region in Bihar which is not financially well off region, and uh, the income levels are pretty low. Now, in this regard, what happens is that, let's say, Madhubani painting. Now, Madhubani painting generates a lot of value nationally and internationally. Now, what may happen is that, let's say, I own a company which makes or sells artwork. So I go to a small artist and then I say that I'll buy your artwork for rupees 1000. Now, for that artist, that 1000 would be a big sum. Knowing that they are going to get paid 1000 or 2000 will be a big sum for them. And I then what I do is that I take it, I also make them sign some contracts, etc. And the main agenda is that I take the ownership. I take the ownership, and now the property belongs to me. Now that painting belongs to me. The next thing that I do is that I create a lot of copies of it, right? I create 10 copies because now I'm the rightful owner. So I create 10 copies of this Madhubani painting and I sell it in the market. Online, maybe I'm selling it for rupees 25,000 or rupees 50,000, and people are paying. People are going to pay for it. So, so something that I bought for rupees 1,000, even if I'm selling it for 10,000, 10 pieces in total, it means that out of the 1,000 investment, I have generated 1 lakh rupees, right? This is what goes wrong with the smaller artisans, with the smaller painters. And that's why for them a platform is needed, right? They need a platform where they can understand the value and they can start generating that value. So that's why it becomes very, very crucial. Then the Department of Promotion of Industry and International Trade, that is DPIIT, will serve as the monitoring body for the work that is done by the various ministries and departments. And also at the same time, overall, the development of IPRs and the future of IPRs and each and everything related to IPRs will all be taken care of by the DPIIT, that is Department for Promotion of Industry and International Trade. Then it also talks about taking actions against treating generic drugs as spurious or counterfeit drugs. Now we'll discuss about generic drugs later. I just hold on to this point for now, but we'll discuss about generic drugs, the problem with generic drugs, and all the controversies around generic drugs as well. The policy will be reviewed after every 5 years to keep in pace with regards to further development. For example, even yesterday, if you go to yesterday's PIB talks about copyrights as applied to AI, and it talks about generative AI and in under what circumstances generative AI can also be used, and how it is already an integral part of the uh, IPR policy. That is the integral part of the IPR policy already. So there is no change required because of IPR. This is what the article said. So this was in PIB 9th Feb. So 9th February, PIB actually has an article where it talks about how the all the Copyrights Act, etc., are updated, and for AI or generative AI, we don't need to do anything separately apart from what we have already done. The benefits of the policy, where do we see the benefits? First and foremost, we see that the interest of the rights owners shall be safeguarded. Then reduction in the window for trademark registration has happened. That trademark registration happens a lot quicker today as compared to the time it take used to take. It could take up to 2 years of time at times, but now we see that there is a significant reduction in the window of getting the trademark registered. Then at the same time, direct and indirect tax benefits are now available through various laws, and that's why it will help in promoting better innovations and research and development in various fields. So that's why this also becomes a benefit. Then it also covers all the things which were not traditionally being covered, but we see that it also comes and evolves. Similarly, in case of semiconductors, now that India is venturing into India Semiconductor Mission, or how we are trying to push for manufacturing of semiconductors in India or use of semiconductors in India, we see that it becomes very, very crucial for us to understand IPR and how IPR is involved with this. If you go to today's Indian Express, there is another news based on this also. If you go to the business page of Indian Express today, it talks about semiconductors and what the government is trying to do with semiconductors in India. Then also encourages for providing access to healthcare, food security, and environmental protection. So all these things are also being taken into account. Now, especially with regards to environmental protection, what we see is that many a times you have products in the market which will simply tell you that they are biodegradable, they are eco-friendly, environmental friendly, they are sustainable clothing. So there are so many things that they say and they do, and it sometimes it becomes very difficult to even understand whether they are telling the truth or not. It can actually be a tricky situation, and that's why there is something which is called as greenwashing. Greenwashing, where a firm claims to be environmentally friendly, but in reality they are not. So this is called as greenwashing. So environmental protection wise it becomes important, because now what happens is that anyway, if let's say somebody is even investing, a firm is investing, an angel investor is investing, so they first do a very thorough check. They would have a team who would do the climate financing, who would first understand whether or not what their footprint is like, carbon footprint is like, how much of waste do they generate, how much of carbon dioxide are they contributing. So based on all these factors, finally they might give some investment if everything looks to be clean. So that's why we see that there are all these things happening. Otherwise greenwashing happens a lot, and a lot of biggest of the companies, what they are claiming is not entirely correct, because they are just giving one side of the story and they're not telling you the other side of the story, which is wrong in many of these cases. So uh, two of the biggest manufacturers of mobile phones, both of these, not two of the, but rather I would say the two biggest companies in the mobile phone industry, they say that they are not giving you the charger or the adapter with your mobile phone because they are being environmentally friendly. They are being eco-friendly by doing that, and they say that look, we have saved so much of plastic by doing this. But in reality they haven't. Suppose that I am somebody who doesn't have the 14th version of that phone and is going to buy the 15th version of that phone, and I would need a charger. My older charger wouldn't work, and the requirements, the electrical requirements will be different. So I need that charger, and if I don't get that charger, I buy it from outside. Now, when you buy this charger from outside, the entire purpose of being sustainable has been killed. Because let's say I buy a charger, first I go to an e-commerce website, there I find the charger, I order it. Suppose that I order a 1 day delivery, that it should come to me in 1 day. It was made in China. So first it flew from China to India in one of the warehouses, let's say Gurgaon warehouse of one company, and from there on it will then fly to my city, and then somebody on a truck will carry it to their warehouse. Then from there somebody on a bike will start taking it and deliver it to me. So just calculate the entire carbon dioxide emission that happened. So then in that case, saying that it is environmentally friendly will not be wise. Correct. So when we say environmentally friendly, we should really mean it. But unfortunately, many of these companies, they would just tell you something and don't they wouldn't give you the entire reality. So which two companies do you know which are not giving the adapter? The two of the biggest companies in the mobile phone market. Hmm. Yeah, Apple and Samsung. Both of them are saying, and for me, it is greenwashing more than anything. Then coming to the problems, the challenges that we are facing in with regards to IPRs in India. Now there are a couple of controversies. There are certain issues that we have, and these issues, for example, there is the Section 3D of the Indian Patents Act 1970. Then there is something called as compulsory license, compulsory license, and then There's another issue with regards to something called as data exclusivity. Data exclusivity. And the fourth problem largely are enforcement, is largely about the enforcement of copyright laws. All right. So these are the four problems that we have to discuss with regards to IPRs in India. The first problem is about Section 3D of the Indian Patents Act. Now, Section 3 of the Indian Patent Act talks about what can't be patented in India. Section 3 is about all the exceptions, that uh, what you cannot uh, patent in India. Now, with regards to Section 3D specifically, there has been a lot of controversy around Section 3D, that India should remove Section 3D. That and in Section 3 altogether, this is what we basically keep talking about, that how exactly uh, how are what are the various things that cannot be patented in India. So Section 3D is the major problem of Indian Patents Act. So, and internationally, internationally we are being asked that we should remove Section 3D. Now, Section 3D basically says is that just a discovery of a new known substance does not mean that you can uh, claim patent on it. Or let's say, with small changes, you cannot just go on to make patents, or you cannot apply for new patent. There is something which is called as patent evergreening. Section 3D is related to something called as patent evergreening. Now, patent evergreening is when many of the pharmaceutical companies, especially, they do this, that they'll make small changes. They'll make a very small, insignificant change in their current formulation, and then they'll say that I need a new patent, and they keep doing that. And in Western countries, they're allowed to do that. In Europe, they are allowed to do that. In US, they are allowed to do that. So they do it very easily in Europe or in US. In India, it's very difficult. In India, they can't do it. In India, the rules say that unless there is a significant change in its efficacy, or significant change in the ingredients that you are using, unless that's the case, we are not going to renew your patent. So getting patents renewed in India becomes a very, very difficult task for a lot of these companies. And in the Western countries, they're used to this, that they would just do a small change, insignificant change in their formulation, and they'll ask her for a new patent, and they get that patent. Similarly, there is something called as compulsory license. Now, this compulsory license is related to emergency conditions. Alright, it is given under emergency conditions. Now, in case of emergency conditions, it could be any kind of emergency. Now, the thing is that the IPR regime, the TRIPS agreement, does not talk about what these limitations are. All right. So that's why what happens is that as a country we can declare that this is emergency, and hence compulsory license. Now, in this particular scenario, many times, just understand what happens, that in case of compulsory license, in, let's say, vaccine, all right, COVID-19 vaccine. Now, COVID-19 vaccines for us were available for rupees 780, if I remember correctly, and even for free, even for half that rate. Now, vaccine also can be patented. Suppose that there is a US based company that patented the vaccine against COVID-19, and they came to India and they also got a patent in India. Now, after getting the patent, they start selling this vaccine for, let's say, rupees 1 lakh per dose, meaning that you have to give rupees 2 lakh to take those two shots or two doses of COVID-19 vaccine. Now, even then, there will be a lot of people who can afford, who would afford. People will probably even take loans to get those rupees 2 lakhs, so that they can at least save themselves. So when it is between rupees 2 lakh and your life, you probably will choose your life. So unfortunately, this could have created a situation where the prices are out of control. Now this is where compulsory license becomes crucial, because India has compulsory license as a part of the TRIPS agreement. Now what we can do is, we can simply uh, we can simply just give away all that information about that patent to some other company, applying compulsory license. So under compulsory license, basically what happens is that the license will be given by the government to somebody else. That suppose that I am the one who came with the vaccine, and to the government I gave a detailed public disclosure, right, each and everything about the formulation, etc. Now what the government can do is that the government would pay me that, okay, you take this much money, but we are going to give compulsory license to this, and then calls upon, let's say, 3 4 companies, and says that, look, this is the formulation and I want you to start making medicines out of it. So then what happens is, drastically, for Indians it is good, but for foreigners it is not good, because they have been using IPR for very very long time. So in this case, when it comes to emergency conditions, so emergency conditions can be anything, and the country is allowed to declare something as an emergency. There is no rule to implementing emergency as such here. So that's a compulsory license becomes again something which is controversial, because in terms of the medicines, or in terms of newer formulations, etc., they almost get nothing out of it. So that's why compulsory license. But for the country, it is very very good. For India, it is going to be very very good, because then it helps us in maintaining that rate or maintaining that cost. So in India, if you look at and compare the prices of medicines versus the world, you'll find that India has one of the cheapest medicines available, and the partly also because of the kind of hand twisting, etc., that has been done, and the government of India has ensured that the compulsory licenses are being used wherever necessary in commerce, and hence they do not allow the companies to prosper here. So that's why the companies which could have benefited in the West, they wouldn't benefit in India, because in India there will be a regime, and the uh, regime will not allow the company to take benefit, but rather they would ensure that the people of the country get benefit out of it. And that's why in case of vaccines, because the companies know that if they come to India with vaccine prices being 1 lakh per dose, the government of India is going to apply compulsory license to it, and then give it to some company for almost free of cost, and maybe the vaccine will become very very cheap. So they'll then keep competitive prices, so that the government does not have to do all this. Then, so that's why there are all these issues. So compulsory license, it has been a matter of huge concern, especially for the foreign investors, where they say that this has been a big challenge for them to come to India. And we see that compulsory license have been given, and they say that in India has been misusing compulsory license, especially in terms of generic medicines. Especially in case of generic medicines, it is, they always say that India actually misuses the concept of uh, compulsory license. But we have to understand that it serves as an exception to the general rule under intellectual property laws, that gives exclusive rights to the intellectual property owner, that it can license or decline to license or do whatever they want to. So that's why compulsory license, it makes sure that the government has the control. So the company that the government is giving the license to, that company need not take any permission from the original patented company. They are dealing with the government. So government is giving that company a contract, and they are working with the government, so they do not have to take any permission from the original company at all. So these, that's why we talk about these challenges. But at the same time, you also need to realize how all these things have evolved. This has been the case with AIDS. that if you look back into the history of AIDS and the medicines against AIDS, for a long time our understanding of AIDS was not there. We did not understand what AIDS is and uh, how it is just spreading, and it has become an epidemic, especially in Asian countries, like especially South Asian countries like India or Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, etc., and African countries. So in these countries, we saw that the number of AIDS cases were on a rise. Unfortunately, there is no cure for AIDS. But then a US based company, they came out with a medicine which will at least help you live uh, in a dignified manner with AIDS. That AIDS, although the onset will happen, but it will happen late, and it will not be as uh, painful as it is altogether for anyone suffering with AIDS, and people can live with AIDS for longer now. So they actually came out with a medicine like this, but the cost of the medicine was $8,000 per annum. $8,000 per annum. Now just imagine, in today's case, we are talking about almost 6.5 lakh rupees. Now, majority of people suffering with AIDS were from very, very poor background. So it was impossible for them to even think of 6.5 lakh rupees per annum. They couldn't have afforded it. But the company was getting a lot of benefit, and that's why they continued. Now here came an Indian company, Cipla. And Cipla went to the government, and Cipla said that, look, if we are allowed to manufacture this drug, we can bring down the cost to $2 per day, almost $730 per annum. And if you let us mass produce this, we can bring it down to $1 a day. Now, this was significant. That on one hand, you are talking about 6.5 lakh rupees per annum. And in this particular regard, you are just talking about maybe 30,000 rupees and not more than that per annum, which is still going to be very easily affordable for a lot of people. And it created a lot of controversy because India allowed Cipla, the government of India allowed Cipla to start making vaccine, uh, this medicine, and they started making it. Now it created a lot of controversy. This company did not like it because they were selling it for $8,000 per annum, and it will now just come down to 360 odd dollars per annum. And that, to forget about whatever it will come to, government of India also said that we'll start distributing this medicine for free. We're not going to charge anything from any one of these countries which are suffering. So this was a huge loss. It was a huge business loss for this company. Now also understand that on one hand there is a firm and the losses for that firm. On the other hand, there are millions of people who are losing their job, their lives. The data the data says, I mean, at the time of its peak, the data says that there were 15,000 people dying per day from AIDS. 15,000 people per day dying of AIDS. And this company is talking about its profits. And forget about this company talking about its profits. Pharmaceutical companies have a habit that they make a cartel, that they'll start doing everything together. They'll start putting pressure on somebody together. So all the other many of the other US based pharmaceutical companies, they also came forward and they said that, look, uh, if India continues with this, we are going to stop selling our drugs in India. We are going to boycott India. And not only these companies, at that point of time, George W. Bush was the president of the US. Even he started saying that we'll put economic sanctions on India if India does not withdraw. Just imagine. On one hand, you have millions of lives. On the other hand, you have the profit of a company. And US chose profit of its company to try and safeguard its company, to arm twist other countries against it. But it had no effect because a lot of controversy already was created. A lot of protests start happening in the US itself against the US government in favor of India. Worldwide, it started happening. A lot of countries came in the support of India, and then this is where the where US also had to take a step back and allow this to happen. And this is where there are even case studies published on this, that how India averted a pandemic by taking this decision and taking a stand that, okay, this is how it is going to play out. But just understand the unfortunate, scenario that the world is in, that they are looking for commercial benefits in any way that they can. And that's why when it comes to all the controversies between the Western laws and the Eastern laws, you'll find that the Eastern laws, meaning that the laws that we have in India or even countries like China, etc., we have laws which are more tilted towards the society, tilted towards the people of the country. So if you look at all these IPR laws and the policy and everything that we have been talking around this policy, we have been talking about how it benefits the people, how it benefits the people of the country, whether financial aid to the empowered or the less empowered groups, or startups, and how innovations can happen in India. But the Western laws are very different. Western laws are tilted towards the company more and less towards an individual. So between an individual and a company, always a company would win. Whereas in case of India, you'll see that always the people would win. There has been an interesting case here, and we'll discuss about that in the context of the Copyrights Act. So before that, another concept is data exclusivity. Now, in data exclusivity, what many of the companies, many of the foreign companies have been alleging is that Indian laws do not protect against unfair commercial use of the test data or other data submitted to the government during the application for market approval of pharmaceutical or agrochemical products. So, what they say is that there should be an exclusivity. There should be an exclusivity to the products, uh, and the data that we have submitted. So let's say a market research has been done, a holistic market research has been done. They are alleging that the market research data leaks in India. So then other companies can use it for their advantage. So India needs to make laws for data exclusivity as well. And then lastly, there is a problem with the copyrights, the enforcement of the Copyrights Act, or the copyrights laws. Now this is also, for example, uh, the number of memes that I have used in this entire lecture module, even that potentially can be counted as copyright violation, because this image, for example, this image has been used in a lot of different memes. So and that's why when you make a meme, you are basically using some commonly available picture out there, and according to my requirements, I'm making my memes. So when I'm making these memes, I've not taken any permission. I've not taken permission from the original owner of this photograph. I've not even informed them. So in that case, it potentially can come under Copyrights Act. We do not know whether it can come or not. We still see that there are a lot of arguments in favor and against whether it should be counted as copyrights violation of copyrights or not. So until now it is not, so I can use it freely. Tomorrow if it is, then I'll have to start taking permissions for each and every one of these that I used. So so that's why enforcement of the Copyrights Act is a big challenge, whether digital, in the digital space, or even in the physical space. You just go around and you see that there are so many outlets that are just selling uh, pirated books, right? You just go around and you'll see that pirated books are being sold, photocopied books are being sold. So all that is copyright violation, because the original owner of the book, the author, is not getting anything, the publication is not getting anything. The person who might have who would have photocopied it, they are getting all the benefit out of it, correct? So that's why ultimately the enforcement of Copyrights Act has to be better. So that is also one of the issues that we have. And in India, for example, one of the cases, as I was just saying, that the Indian laws are more tilted towards how it can help the people of the country. There was a case where in Delhi University there was a Xerox shop which used to take photocopies of the important chapters from every book and give it to the students. So the students would benefit because there are 4 5 bulky books where only two chapters are relevant or four chapters are relevant. So I, as a student, don't want to buy this book because there are 20 chapters out of which I have to read only four. So just for reading those four chapters, I don't want to buy this. So what this shop was doing is that from all the important books, all the important chapters were just photocopied and was being given as a bundle to the students. Now here, three companies, I think one was Oxford and two more companies, they came forward and they lodged they filed a case against the Xerox shop, saying that they are, because of the behavior of this photocopy shop, we are losing our business. We are losing our business because of that. So they started saying this, that we are losing the business because of this. So, and the matter went to even Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled against these companies and ruled in the favor of the photocopy shop. And what Supreme Court said is that if it is meant for betterment of Indian society, then we would allow this to happen. So that's why if it is needed for school, for college, for post graduation, then photocopying is allowed. Otherwise, it is not. So for coaching, it is not that you going to a shop and you just taking the photocopies of a particular book. That's not allowed because that's your private interest, not in the interest of Indian education. So that's different. But in if it is related to education, related to a school or a college or a post graduation degree, etc., then in that case, photocopying is allowed. And Supreme Court ruled it and ruled against the companies that had gone to the court itself. So this question, for example, this was asked in your prelims examination. So question says, with reference to the National Intellectual Property Rights Policy, consider the following statements. First is, it reiterates India's commitment to the Doha Development Agenda and TRIPS agreement. Now, this was the very first line of PIB when the announcement was made. So it was there in the PIB that keeping in mind the TRIPS agreement and all the international laws, we now have our own policy. So this is correct. Second is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion is the nodal agency for regulating intellectual property rights in India. Even this is correct. Now it used to be DIPP, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, which has changed to DPIIT, Department for Promotion of Industries and International Trade. So that is DPIIT. So the name has changed from DIPP to DPIIT. So that's why this is also correct. So correct answer will be both 1 and 2. I've not launched the poll because I've not discussed this. So that's why I've not launched any poll for this. Even this question was asked in your paper. According to the Indian Patents Act, a biological process to create a seed can be patented in India. Biological process to create a seed can be patented in India. This is wrong. You only can get a patent if proper genetic engineering is used. Only a biological process or creating a hybrid, all these things cannot give you a patent. All right. So that's why it cannot be patented. It cannot be patented in India, and biological processes in general in India cannot be patented. So that's why this is wrong. This is a wrong statement. Second statement says in India, there is no intellectual property appellate board. Now, even this is wrong. There is an appellate board, and why wouldn't there be an appellate board? It has been here and functional for almost more than 20 years now. Plant varieties are not eligible to be patented in India. This is correct. Plant varieties cannot be patented in India. Now, what happens again? This is where there's a difference between India and the West. In the US, it is allowed. In Europe, it is allowed. That suppose that you have gone out for a hike, you're just walking somewhere in the jungles, and you find a new variety of plant, let's say a medicinal plant, and nobody else has a patent. So in the US, you can get the plant patented in your name. But in India, plant cannot be patented. Anything natural cannot be patented. Anything biological process cannot be patented. So that's why this cannot be patented in India. Not eligible to be patented in India. This is correct. So correct answer that's why will be 3 only. Now coming to the last topic of our discussion, and this is about traditional knowledge digital library. Now, overall, with regards to Indian patents, we see that a lot of India's traditional knowledge was lost to the West. Neem was patented in the US, Basmati patented in Europe, even yoga postures patented in Europe, turmeric patented in the US, even even in case of Even in case of uh, a lot of things. For example, let's say medicinal properties of neem patented in the US. Then turmeric patented in the US. Basmati patented in Europe. Yoga postures patented in Europe. Cow urine patented in Europe, in the US. So we see that there are a lot of things that in one way or the other has been a part of India's tradition, but they were all getting patented somewhere, and we did not realize the value that it is getting patented somewhere and of how it can have a negative impact on us. So now what we see is that India started protesting against it. First, in the parliament, also a lot of debate happened here that India needs to stand strong and uh, get all these things uh, in India because it belongs to traditional knowledge of the country. So that is where, with this problem statement that a lot of traditional knowledge of the country is getting patented somewhere else, we started this regime called as Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. Now, so that's why lack of access to traditional knowledge information and their classified non-patent literature for the patent examiner was a big obstacle. And because a lot of this traditional knowledge, it is in one language or another, correct? One Indian language or another. And in India, there are so many languages that you forget about only the official languages that we have, uh, all the official languages that we have, the scheduled languages as we call them. Apart from that, also there are so many variations of the language. Even if you say Hindi, there are so many variations of Hindi that you just move 100 kilometers from one place to another. Although there are 7 8 states, 9 states which are Hindi states, yet the version of Hindi that they speak is very different. Same goes for a lot of languages elsewhere in the country as well. You come down to the south as well, in Karnataka also you'll see that, whether it is Kannada or when you go towards the coastal side towards Tulu, you'll see that those regions also have a very different language. So that's why language is a thing that in India there are so many languages that it also becomes very difficult for an examiner to even understand what language it is in. So that's why it was understood that any local language that right now it belongs to, they should all uh, be converted or translated into international languages. All right, international languages. So for example, English, French, Spanish, German, Japanese, these five international languages were chosen, that everything that is there in an Indian language, it should be translated to all these five languages, and we will make a public library out of it. We'll make a public digital library. Information is available. Now you can't get it patented because we already have made it as a part of the traditional knowledge. And even if the patent has to come, it has to come to an Indian or an India based company. And also, the benefits out of this product should go back to the community from where this knowledge has been derived. So, all these things were taken into account as a part of Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, and CSIR and Department of Ayush created this. Council of Scientific and Industrial Research (CSIR) and Department of Ayush, which has now become Ministry of Ayush. So these two came together and they formulated this so that it can help the IPR regime in India and also ensure that traditional knowledge is not being lost. Uh, Indian traditional knowledge is not being lost. So that's why there are all these things that were done, and traditional knowledge digital library was created. So that's why overall all these things they would help in building better products and in India, and also understanding better understanding of the traditional knowledge, and also help its conservation, because a lot of traditional knowledge also gets lost in history because the information is not passed on from one generation to another. The newer generations are not adopting it, so that also means that they might be lost. So it also helps in protection against these kind of losses as well. So that is why Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. Now these questions, they have been asked in your past papers from this particular chapter. First is, how is Government of India protecting traditional knowledge of medicine from patenting by the pharmaceutical companies? So this is where we see that we are talking about the traditional knowledge and how the pharmaceutical companies simply what we just discussed about traditional knowledge digital library and how creation of this digital library would help India. And then second question again is on the same traditional knowledge digital library and all the pros and cons of having a library. This is like this, that if we have an open source licensing, a public library, then what are the advantages and disadvantages of having this? And then finally, the third question, if you see, it's a simple question based on these three terms: patents, trade secrets, and copyrights, and the differences that we have between three. But before writing the differences, there is this one sentence here, that in a globalized world, intellectual property rights assume significance and a source of litigation. So here a basic introduction should be given, because they also have given you something about intellectual property rights. So you also, while writing an answer, you should give some space to it before you go on to write the actual answer between the differences in copyrights, patents, and trade secrets. Right, so this is it about this chapter. So as I told you, it's more of a discussion oriented chapter and more related to mains. So that's why I've included a lot of information in the slides itself, so that it will help you in revision of all these things. So if you have any question, if you want to ask anything, please let me know. If you have any questions, please put some light on CSIR. What is CSIR? CSIR is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and you can say it's a premier organization in India for every kind of cutting edge scientific research and all the scientific developments. Each and everything is happening here. All the innovations in technology, they'll be working on everything, whether on artificial intelligence, on nanotechnology, on any new technology, any complex innovations, each and everything, they are the ones looking after everything. So that's why they actually are related to scientific research in India. What if something like that is patented in the US, like turmeric, is used by India? What will happen? See, as long as we are using in India, doesn't matter, because a US based company will never be able to get a patent on turmeric in India. But the problem will be when an Indian company goes to US, because there it's already patented. So you cannot go there. You cannot enter that space itself, because somebody else already has the patent. So in we going there will be a problem. They wouldn't have any effect domestically inside India. Can a product like turmeric get patented in two different countries? Yes, they can be. And depends on, for example, whoever moves first will get the patent. Will tomorrow be the last class of science and technology weekend batch? No, today is the last class of science and technology. This is the last chapter. In the second question, what is the disadvantage? So in terms of disadvantages, because the information is publicly available, so many a times there is a chance of misuse of that information as well. So misuse of information is possible. At the same time, it can create a lot of controversies around many of the patents as well, that with regards to the patents that already have been given, there also it can create controversies. Then also what we see is that there's a chance that it can lead to dilution of the IPRs, that overall it might lead to dilution of the IPRs, and it might not be the IPRs may not hold strong anymore. Even the Indian IPRs may not hold strong anymore. Due to my gate exam, I joined the class around 30 uh, so basically we started with defense today. We discussed defense, then we discussed the topic of IT and communication, and then this is the last chapter, that is IPR, where we ended. So you can go through all the recordings, that will help you. If someone copies other country's product which was patented in that country and the patent that product in its own country. I didn't get your question. So if you are saying that if whether somebody else can patent a patented product in some other country or not, they can, but that can be contested, and that's why there are international agreements also, like the TRIPS agreement. So internationally, it also takes care of all the controversies that will be created here. So it's not easy to do that. So it's about who quickly fights the patents. You can say that, but it can always be contested. Means if a product like turmeric powder is patented in the USA, then an Indian company cannot set a company in US of turmeric powder. You are correct. Absolutely correct. They'll have to take permission from that US based company first. So that is where the problem lies. I don't find PPTs and additional reading material uploaded. I'll just check again with them. I don't know what the issue is. I'll check again. Because I already instructed the team to do it. I'll talk to them again. As per the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act, farmers, when they buy patented seeds, are able to regrow and even sell them without packaging. But we also say plant varieties cannot be patented. No, so see, when we talk about these seeds, no, these are seeds which are genetically modified seeds where you have used genetic engineering. So if you have used genetic engineering, then it cannot be patented. All right. If you have used genetic engineering, then it can be patented. If you have not used it, if just a biological process, then it cannot be patented. Lecture recordings are available. You can go through it on the app. It is available. What should we focus for 2024 from science and technology? Uh, the toughest question that you could ask. It's very difficult to predict what can be asked and what wouldn't be asked. But usually, see, three topics always will remain important: space technology, energy, and biotechnology. These are three areas where from you have to expect questions to come. And I believe artificial intelligence is another topic from where they can ask questions now. So you should be more on the look for these four topics. The topic of quantum physics is tough. So what kind of mains question can we expect from there? In the mains examination, they cannot ask you technology, but rather the advantages, the applications, the problems, the limitations, those kind of things. Can we say patent is relative to geography only? I mean, they are territorial rights that wherever you apply for, you get it there only. Please solve annotated PPT's problem. We are not able to access. I'm just going to tell them about again about this so that nobody misses it out. If an Indian has a patent for turmeric powder in India, Indian company has, I think you wanted to write, Indian company has a patent for turmeric powder in India, but before it could patent it in US, another US company patented in the US. So will Indian company now have to take the permission of that US company in the US? So if timelines are the problem, they can also take the problem international, and they can actually go through the trips agreement, and they can try to solve the problem there. If they are confident, if they are confident that they are the first ones with that product, then they can actually do that internationally. They can take that issue internationally. What is open source digital network and source code? Both of them are different, because an open source digital network could be any network related project and or technology that is developed and maintained as an open source. All right. So then in that case, the protocols or the distributed networks, etc., can be open. And on the other hand, source code, you can say uh, the program that is created in anything. Let's say you make an app. If you have made a mobile phone app, so the programming that you have done in developing that mobile phone app, that is called as the source code of that app. Can you explain in short VLC? VLC basically stands for visible light communication, meaning that when you are using visible light as the source of communication, like in case of Li-Fi, where visible light is the carrier of the information. LAN is local area network and not local access network. Local area network means that when the network is established within a floor or maybe a building or maybe a couple of buildings, so that will be called as a local area network. What is starting tomorrow? I'm not really sure. I haven't checked the schedule. Who is next? Patent evergreening again. So patent evergreening is when a company tries to keep taking the keep they just try to keep the patent forever by just, let's say, making some small changes, that they'll just say that, look, this is a change this time in the formulation, so now this should be counted as a new patent, and the patent that they have, let's say, until now, that will be extended for 20 more years. So when they try to do that, it is called as patent evergreening, by just making small changes here and there. Patent and copyrights. Patent will be given for new uh, any new idea, any new process or product, whereas copyrights will be given for expression of those ideas. Chat GPT content will have any patent problem? Not, I mean, not patent anyway. They are related to copyrights more. And until now, nothing as such. We have to see what happens in the future. Important topics. See, important topics. One is space technology. Space technology always. Energy always. Biotechnology is the third topic. And then artificial intelligence. These four. What is microsatellite DNA? Microsatellite DNA basically is a repeated DNA, a DNA that as a module has been repeating in the species throughout the generation. That in last 10 generations we see the same DNA repeating. So that is called as microsatellite DNA or even satellite DNA. NFC has 13.56 megahertz, meaning less frequency. Bluetooth has high frequency, distance should be more than Bluetooth. It's not entirely only about a frequency, but also because of the other ways in which the technology that is running that particular communication mode. So that's why we see that even though there are differences, yet NFC has a smaller range. What happened to neem, urine, and turmeric basmati, in which India and US and UK were there? Who got the patent? So patents were already there in the US and UK, and then we started contesting them. All right. So I've answered most of the questions, I think. If you have any further questions, this is my email ID. You can write to me at rasesh.kumar at byju's.com for any query that you might have, and I'll try to solve your problem. Should we read AI in deep? No, no, no. Only the things that we discuss in the class, that's more than enough. Right. So let's end the session here. If you have any further doubts, please contact me here. This is the end for me, I mean, my sessions. And if you please go back, revise everything. If you have any doubts, please bring them back and we'll try to solve them as much as possible. With this, I take your leave. All the best to every one of you writing the examination. Thank you very much.